those minutes.
We are ready to start recording when you are.
I have information. We're rolling.
Thank you very much. It's,
Oops, an agenda.
thank you very much. No, that's minutes. I've got the minutes.
Oh, that's minutes.
Yeah, because
These are minutes.
March and May.
I don't know, there was an agenda.
Okay, good evening. It's June the 12th, 2024, 6:30 PM. I'm calling the Town of Barnstable Shellfish Committee meeting to order. But I first must inquire. Please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel and in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Anybody? No, great. First order of business is to approve the minutes from March the 13th and May the 8th.
You going to take attendance?
No.
Oh, we don't do attendance?
Not when we're present. If you want to do
Oh,
attendance,
no, I didn't.
tell us who you are.
I thought that used to have a roll call. All right, cool, fine.
So I see the May 8th minutes. Do we have the March 13th minutes as well?
Yes.
Right. I'll entertain a motion on, want to move them together or separately?
Separately, because I wasn't here in May, so I can't, no, I wasn't here in, May, so I can't vote on it.
Okay. So somebody want to move the March minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to move the March 13th, approve March 13th, 2024 minutes. As,
Second.
thank you.
They've been moved. Do I hear a second?
I seconded it.
Oh, thank you. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on the May 8th minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 8th, 2024 minutes.
I'll second it.
Great. Move seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor all those in favor of approving it signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Great. I have no comment at this time. Natural Resources Report.
Yes. So I have a couple of updates. The proposed aquaculture regulation changes were adopted recently, and so those will be integrated into both the town code and e-code. We have a number of areas that throughout the season around major holidays are being stocked. Those are our open status relay areas. So starting in Katuitt, there's the Bluff Point relay area accessible off of Ocean View Avenue. There is the Handy Point recreational only area off of Little River Road. There is the Cordwood Landing / Narrows relay area that we are stocking. The West Bay relay area in West Bay off of South Bay Road, and Bridge Street Landing, although not a designated relay area, to the left of the landing extending towards the Weano relay area between the 2nd and 8th docks. We may have an opening at Rendezvous close to the 4th. We had very stunted growth cohogs there that are just taking forever to get to a point where it won't be an enforcement nightmare to pull the nets and just open it. But we had been hoping for Memorial Day. It's now looking more like the 4th of July, but we'll definitely have an opening over there at some point in time this year. The Bunnels application for self-verification notification to Army Corps regarding the use of a floating pen as part of their Vibrio plan was accepted. And so any grower that wants to implement something similar to that in Barnstable Harbor, it's been vetted. I know the framework. We can go through the application together very quickly. GIS knows the maps that need to be created. So thank you to Jen Bunnell for being the guinea pig and getting that running. I checked with her today, and she said they absolutely love it. It's a game changer for them.
So what's that, essentially like a floating cage type of deal to put stuff in?
Yeah, to stage your stuff. Yeah. Yep.
Submersible, or is it?
It's a float, about like this much of the cage actually floats on top, so it just gives you the opportunity to have your time of exposure be when you pull the bag rather than when it's exposed at low tide, which is helpful in an area that has, occasionally extreme tides, busy landings, not a lot of access, all the normal problems that our Barnstable Harbor growers experience. We have some Learn to Shellfish classes. We had our climbing class for kids over the past weekend days. They were the kids that attended had a wonderful time. We're trying to figure out a way to drum up more interest in them. We had been targeting in recent years minus tides to give them the opportunity to learn to quahog and to softshell clam, but attendance has been waning, and we think it's partially because of the times that they're starting kind of being early. So next year we're going to focus a little bit more on outreach and also on picking tides that are more moderate, but that are more likely to get attendance. And we do have our remaining Learn to Shellfish classes that actually require registration ahead of time, coming up on June 23rd, July 27th, August 24th, and September 22nd, because the Shellfish staff has been boating people out to areas for these experiences rather than stocking an area that's accessible to everybody on the regular. We had a small closure of a set of young razor clams just east of the Barnstable Yacht Club Pier out to Salton Point. Those razor clams that were being harvested, because there is no state minimum size on them, were around 2 to 3 inches, which obviously have not had a chance to spawn yet. The best available science, of which there is pretty limited science, but indicates that they need to be closer to around 5 inches. So we've closed that area. It will stay closed for at least a year. We'll reassess, and then when the animals are we're confident that they've had an opportunity to spawn, we'll reopen the area. We're also watching an area in Barnstable Harbor that, as of yet, has not been abused by our beloved recreational fishery, but should we see the same sort of thing occurring out that way, we will also close that area as well. We had thought about implementing minimum size limits, but where people are salting for them, it can often cause damage to their cilia and then could potentially kill them depending on the concentration of the salt solution that they're using. So it seemed like the best management practice is to close areas that need protection for seed rather than try to implement a size limit that's really not even established or accepted by the state.
See, that's why I suggested before a size limit for the recreational people, for the simple fact is the commercial guys, you can't take them that small.
Right.
They won't buy them.
Right.
So the rec people, they can take them any size they need them. Don't matter. For us, there has to be a certain amount, and there has to be a certain size for commercial guys to go get them.
So what we're really trying to focus on now is and it isn't a commercial harvest issue. It's a recreational issue.
Oh, I definitely know that.
Yeah, so we're trying to manage that in the best way that we can for the sustainability of the fishery as a whole. And the easiest rationale for that is just to close an area when we see that there's a lot of seed there and we see people abusing it. So recreational permit sales comparison of 2023 to 2024 in June. We are slightly down. I'm, again, not surprised. We closed oyster season in Barnstable Harbor early. I expect that we'll be behind probably until like October of this year. Does anyone have any questions about these numbers? Do you want me to run through them? I mean, we're not that far off. It's less than 200 permits, but I think that's pretty consistent with the differences from one oyster season to the next. And the fact that most people that have only been shellfishing in this town have, for the past like 5 years, are very used to there being like a bounty of oysters around and not recognizing that farming is farming, and some years are better than others. We have our shellfish growing area maps. The only thing of note that we have upcoming is that water quality closure in the Cotuit Narrows. I'll show you just the blow-up map of Cotuit Bay because it kind of outlines it best. There are 2 water quality sampling stations in this section of the Cotuit Narrows, and for a number of years, they tested dirty enough during the summer months that they needed to be reverted back to conditionally approved rather than what they had been since 2013 up until, I want to say, 2021 or 2022 in open status. So now, June 15th, this area will be closed. There will be a sign at that little boardwalk that's right around the corner of the seasonal dock, and then there's the forever sign that never comes out of that flat outside of Tim's Cove that we just tack a metal sign to every year. Let me see. Oh, and then we have our propagation report. So Ryan, our shellfish technician, writes, our second seasonal CC has joined the propagation team a couple weeks ago. She was formerly employed by Cape Cod Oysters, so she knows her way around aquaculture. We will also be having our intern from MITC grant, Aiden, start this upcoming Friday, and he will be with us for the duration of the season. Last year's remote set has been fully planted in Barnstable Harbor. We also finished all of this year's remote set bags, 700 bags that are currently at ARC, awaiting for spat to stick to the mother shell. They went into the tank last weekend. This past month, we pulled 28 nets to prepare for more stocking in the shellfishing areas. We dug and free planted 42.5 bushels of quahogs, most of which were legal throughout the 3-bay system. This makes a total of 151.5 bushels of mixed-size quahogs already moved for this year. We had a successful kids clamming class this past weekend. The kids who attended had a blast and learned how to dig for quahogs. For the first time, we also decided to hide a clam which was painted pink with nail polish, and the kid who found it was awarded a scratch rake. Like, no joke. The kid that found it is like this tiny little nugget who will very much have to grow into using his rake, but the picture that I saw of him, he looked very excited about his win. There's a small project that will be starting up in some capacity with a cooperative extension regarding boring sponge. They'd like to work with the massive form or gamma stage of the boring sponge. This form of sponge has the potential to produce a lot more larvae into an estuary, so reproductive activity would be important to understand, and questions remain as to how fast it grows, especially as fragments. Rough objectives: identify some massive forms of the sponge at field site, put them into an easily accessible cage or container to access at future visits, assess reproductive activity through tissue samples to be fixed and analyzed later via histology for egg production and reproductive status, deploy sensors to monitor basic conditions at the site, and assess growth of the massive form of the sponge. So this is a project that Rachel Hutchinson, who was formerly a propagation staff in Orleans, now working for the cooperative extension, will be working with Liz. We know we have boring sponge, and we have an area off of Point Isabella that would be easy access for them. It's just probably a little bit of vetting in terms of there's that private beach for the neighborhood there, and also adjacent to a mooring area. But I do think that honestly would be very valuable information for us to get. And then the last piece of information that I have for you this month is there's a Shellfish Advisory Panel meeting tomorrow that I'll be attending via Zoom at 5. Certain members of the seafood dealer / aquaculture sector have requested DMF discuss a potential framework to allow aquaculturists to bring their product to wholesale dealers to offsite cull and then direct sale through the wholesale dealer to the saleable product to market, and then take the rest of it that's not capable of being sold through resubmergence. So because we have a number of wholesale dealers in town that had sort of already been engaging this relatively common practice. They're not the only ones. This happens across the state. And then the state sort of was like, oh no, this is happening. This is not okay. This doesn't fit into our existing regulations, similar to transactions being held at the grassy knoll, for which there is now a regulation. There's a pathway to regulatory action that would support something like this. So say like, if you're not a wholesale dealer, you could take your unculled product to Cape Cod Oyster, cull through it, they can sell your product for you, you can take the rest of the stuff back to your site. So I'll be attending that meeting tomorrow, and more information on that to come.
Great.
Oh, and dry dragging, yeah. The only update that I have on that is that in the past month, I've learned a few things. Easter is now when tourist season starts. Memorial Day is now observed by the general public as the 4th of July, and one can only assume that the 4th of July will now be Armageddon. And so I've not had a chance to even dedicate any time to it at all, and so there is, similar to the improvements at Scudder Lane Landing, no actual update this month.
Dry dragging, what's
The quahog dragging.
In North Bay.
In North Bay, we
the
also
river.
allowed it in the Sepuit River this past year, and in East Bay.
Right.
So we're looking at kind of formulating some sort of management plan around it, but it's very much in its infancy stages, and I haven't had any time to dedicate to it over the past month. So in its infancy stages, it remains for now.
And approximately how many people are doing that?
5 on a good day.
Did you know that, Paul?
I do know. I never heard the term dry dragging.
Is the presentation that Jake did last time, is that available online?
It would be part of the recording from the video, from the Shellfish Committee meeting, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Otherwise, it's just his presentation that he shared via like a cloud drive, I think, I want to say, something like that. But yeah, if it's for some reason not on the video, I believe it is,
Okay.
just, I'll let Jake know that you're interested in it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, thank you very much, Amy.
Welcome.
I'm going to move on to new business, which is none. The upcoming renewal and transfer hearings, none. Upcoming and old proposed coastal projects, we have Harvey and Jane Becker of 290 Bridge Street.
Yeah, so that went before the commission on May 28th. It was just a reconstruction and widening of an existing boardwalk, didn't require a shellfish survey as none of the work was going to impact any shellfish habitat. It was approved.
Great. I'm going to move on to number 2, Raymond Martin, and that's 40 Bay Road in Katuitt.
Yep, so that one also went before the commission on the 28th. It's in an area of Shoestring Bay that is prohibited and the like ethereal, unfortunate muck pit. And it was also approved. We went to do a survey, didn't have any opposition to it. I think it's a standard like float stops.
Sure. Do you know if the work's going to be done landward or seaward?
Seaward for the dock. The rest of it should be landward.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
But they have to have staking approved, and there's usually pre-construction site visits that determine that and that invite the shellfish biologist to attend.
Great. Thank you. Any questions about that project? I'm going to move to number 3, George and Larry Attar, Lisa and Jeffrey Biling.
Yep. So that was 306 Long Beach Road. Mark Burgess came and presented last month to you guys, but they had a continuance because waterways. So it wasn't an issue for us. It's very much up in a prohibited section of the Centerville River, and it's like marginal shellfish. I don't think they may have found a few quahogs. And so we didn't have any opposition to it. Ultimately, it went back before the commission on the 4th and was approved subject to them turning the float 90 degrees to appease waterways.
Gotcha. Questions? I'll move on to number 4, Kathleen and Wallace Grove, trustees, 944 Main Street, Katuitt.
Yep, so this one is to replace an existing failing concrete bulkhead with a vinyl bulkhead. All of the work as described in the project narrative is being done via the upland. Nothing will be stored on the beach at all. And so didn't even require a shellfish survey. Our department doesn't have any, our division, I should say, doesn't have any opposition to it.
All right. Questions? No? Old business, status of Scudder Lane.
Wah, wah.
Okay.
Unless our now visiting Councilor Clark has anything to say.
Oh, yes.
Similar? Wah, wah?
No, perhaps,
No?
I don't
Okay.
know what to take action.
The Scudder Lane Town Landing, it's a regular item on our
I
agenda.
know, I remember from a year ago.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a couple of years in the works now.
Yes, I know it.
That spring meeting from last year.
So, do you have any suggestions?
Is it moving forward at all, or are we still
I think there was a-
bogged down?
It got bogged down, I guess I should.
Yep, yeah.
I'm sorry.
And introduce
Thank
yourself,
you.
please. We know who you are, but for the
General
camera.
public.
Chris Clark, Town Councilor, former council liaison to Shellfish Committee. But I was told that there is an issue with disability access with their plans at the Scudder Lane ramp. But the DPW staff was saying that they don't know quite how to resolve it, because if they build a ramp to the wet sand at Scudder Lane, it's just going to go to wet sand, more wet sand or wetter sand, especially at low tide. So it can't take it to the water at a minus tide. So I'm not so sure how to break that log jam.
Gotcha.
I
Should we
wonder
write
if,
a
like,
letter?
remember back in the beginning when everybody was like, keep it simple, stupid method? can you just can they just patch up? You know, they've done patches, but can they just redo the existing ramp?
Yeah, it's a DPW project at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't know if as chair you want to say it's been over a year or what. You can look at when it first went on the agenda and
At
say,
least a year ago. Might even be more.
I think it was more.
yeah, I think,
Yeah, I've been
think
saying
Paul-
I don't know for a while, so.
Right.
but I'm just saying that as chair, you could send a letter to DPW and maybe CC Counselor Starr as your liaison. CC me too.
As to the status of the project.
Yes, or send a letter to the town manager.
Okay?
And, yeah, now, I wonder if maybe you can send another letter possibly about the Blish situation. The sand is overtaking the ramp. Like on a low tide, you almost can't even load your boat down there anymore. It's like at a dangerous level where your boats are like this. And now the tides, when you get to the low tides, when we're there early in the morning and late in the evening, getting in and out, you're just almost impossible. So, I mean, once summer kicks in, it's really going to be bad because you're going to have a ton of people there.
Sure.
It's only going to take one good storm, and it's probably going to fill the whole thing in right now.
How often do they remove the sand?
I would say every so many months. A couple years ago, enough people complained about it.
Yeah.
They would, do something. But when they first put it in the dock, I asked the DPW guy. He said, I don't know when they're going to do it. And it was like a mess. Like it was sand from all winter.
Yeah.
And they haven't touched it yet.
They haven't touched it since the winter?
Nope.
Oh, I'm surprised, because they were pretty
Soon as they
faithful
put-
with maintenance.
Yeah, they have not done anything with it. Because before, when the dock wasn't in there, you kind of had a little sun over the flat spot
Right,
to go
right,
in
right.
there. But soon they put it on,
Should be room for 2 boats.
yeah,
coming and going.
It's a mess right now. I mean, your boat is literally at like a 45-degree during low tide. So now when the tides are going to be 6 in the morning, when you got to get out there,
Yeah.
it's a disaster.
I recommend it's 2 weeks before the 4th of July. You're going to,
And then it's really going to get hectic down there.
point.
I did, at the request of the committee last month, reach out to Brian Taylor, since Harbor Master sort of manages that site in season, and he did say that he had put in a request and was asking for a larger dredge footprint around the area. So, but that was the last update that I had, and that was, at the beginning of May. So
And
a
so
letter might be
We're
helpful.
talking dredging
Well, I
at
mean,
Blish.
before they would just take a bobcat for one, I think it was, and just kind of clean it out. But the sand mound now is getting so high, if you just bobcat it out, it's probably going to fall in. But I mean, at least they could do something for us here to make it a little safer. And once these guys start getting into these big boats, those things are going to be probably dangerous to
Yeah.
load and launch. I mean, we got these little flat boats that are low.
Yeah.
When these guys come with these big 20-some-odd foot boats that are tall, there's going to be a lot of leaning going on.
Yeah. I hear you.
I mean, I don't know how top heavy they are. Could really get seriously dangerous.
So I'll entertain a motion to authorize me to send these letters.
I make a motion that we authorize the chairman to send these letters to.
Second that motion.
I'll third it.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great.
And I'd send it to the town manager.
Yeah, I've got a letter to TM
Thank you.
and CC,
Gordon.
I'm sorry?
Gordon?
Okay.
You can CC me because I was at this meeting.
And anybody else that you
Me?
can think of? Dan Santos?
Probably, he's the head of DPW, so that would make sense.
But yeah, the Shellfish
And I
Committee.
know Paul Graves was the person who was sort of spearheading, kind of in charge of the Scudder project specifically.
Does he work for Santos? Okay.
Yep.
Paul Graves? Anybody else need to be on that list? Okay. Yeah, got her.
Well, maybe Brian Taylor, Harbor Master. I think that covers
Oh,
all the bases, right? Yeah.
Awesome. Last order of business, matters not reasonably anticipated by myself. Are there any? Great. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.